kind of owes a bit of its fall off to the rise in Miraidon. For a while, both of those decks were competing for the same niche of, I have a nice, 2-prize basic Pokemon, a nice EX, I'm just going to get set up and start attacking you. And then the awkwardness started to show with the Baxcaliburs, a lot of players just going after those immediately.
And Jake Gearhart, of course, on the other end. If Jared Grimes is one of Chien-Pao's strongest soldiers, Jake Gearhart is absolutely one of Gardevoir's strongest soldiers. This is a deck he has been playing extremely consistently, but if you take a look at this deck list here from Jake, something interesting to note, his kind of cornerstone card that he's been preaching this format, that Deoxys V and V-Star, he's choosing not to play at the tournament this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, something's got to give. You have to decide, even though you have a signature card, something that's really giving you a lot of success, is it going to be worth it for this event?
Right.
And it looks like Jake is opting for a little bit more consistency, but still having those great options to adapt to the anticipated metagame.
And I think one of the big pluses of the Deoxys V-Star is that it is a good answer to the Iron Hands EX. You can KO it pretty reasonably with that V-Star power, but whenever you look at the metagame recently, it does feel like Miraidon has started to decline just a little bit. And so because of that, Jake felt like he didn't need it for this weekend. Prize cards going out for both players. We do see a Chien-Pao EX in the prizes for Jared. He is playing 3 copies, so not too bad. That one Cresselia in the prizes for Jake Gearhart, though, is definitely annoying. That can be really nice early on in the game. Moonglow reverse, snipe down some of those Frigibacks on the bench. Take those out of play before they can become Baxcaliburs, and then also prep energy on your benched Kirlias so that you can do more damage later on.
Exactly.
Doesn't have access to it, though, at this game 1.
Yeah, without the Cresselia, Jake has probably already experienced this exact scenario in this exact matchup. A player known for doing so much prep with the Gardevoir deck can lean into Screamtail a little bit more for some of that sniping ability. But it looks like Jared's going to open us up, starting Bidoof in the active, and has a Nest Ball. Going to have that opening deck search. Knows there's going to be one Chien-Pao in the prizes, of course. But off this Nest Ball, what is the first grab usually with these Chien-Pao decks?
Yeah, it really depends on what the rest of your hand looks like. If you have an energy card, maybe you go get that Greninja right away, use concealed cards, get an energy in the discard pile, activating all of your superior energy retrievals, but then also giving you that extra card draw. Maybe it's a Chien-Pao EX so that you can use that Shivery Chill ability to go grab a couple of energy cards out of the deck to start building your hand. And that really is the name of the game here for this Chien-Pao deck. You want to have access to tons of different energy cards so that you can load up and go for a big, strong Hail Blade. Now, Jared Grimes is also playing the 1 Iron Hands EX and the 1 Lightning Energy. Those are going to be massive cards in this specific matchup. One of the main reasons that he plays the Iron Hands is for the Gardevoir matchup, but not a super strong start. Just that Frigibacks, and then attached to the Bidoof. Back over to Jake.
Has the Mysterious Tail Mew in the active. This is also a great cornerstone for the deck, an extra shot at getting that Battle VIP pass or a level ball, something to get you off of the ground at the very least. And with Jared kind of picking up that Frigibacks off the Nest Ball, I think that does mean that he really wants to make sure I've got that super cold. I want to lean into this Iron Hands even more for this matchup.
Yeah, not the best start for Jared, and really not the strongest of starts for Jake. It looks like it may very quickly become a Mirage Step angle in this game. Level Ball can find that one, Ralts. I don't know if there is another search card in this hand at the moment, though.
Yeah, with just one Ralts, things get very dicey. Mirage Step has consistently been a card that's kept Gardevoir into these seemingly unwinnable games. You get off to a terrible, terrible start, and Mirage Step can bring you back into it. And when we look across the table, of course, at Jared's start, Jake is most likely considering that line already. Hey, since my opponent wants to give me the extra time, perhaps I can go ahead and play towards the Mirage Step.
Now, this is a big card to find pretty quickly, that Manaphy with that Wave Veil ability. It's going to prevent the potential Moonlight Shuriken of a Radiant Greninja on Jared's side, normally a way that you could target down both Ralts that your opponent puts into play. But thanks to Jake having that Manaphy in his opening hand, he's not going to have to worry about it.
Yeah, so your foundation is protected, and now Jared Grimes has his work cut out for him. This isn't going to be the sort of game where early Greninja sealing the deal anymore. This is going to be a straight-up Chien-Pao needing to take all of these prizes, and Gardevoir doesn't mind playing that sort of game. It's almost a pseudo single-prize deck until the late-game scenarios come to happen. Iono is going to be the second card now after the bench Frigibacks. Needs to find a little bit more here. There wasn't, of course, a rare candy, Baxcalibur. Even the Radiant Greninja, even though it's not going to be able to attack from this position, is still, I think, really good to have the extra card draw. But we'll have to see what we grab here.
Yeah, Jared would have needed quite a bit off this 6-card Iono to pull off an attack. It would have needed to be a Chien-Pao plus a Baxcalibur and a rare candy. So not super likely to happen. I think he's going to be content just searching his deck here with this Earthen Vessel. And this is a key card to find early on so that you can get that lightning energy. And with this deck, one of the very first things you want to do is put the lightning energy in the discard pile so that all 4 of your superior energy retrievals are going to be easy access to that card throughout the game whenever you try to attack with the Iron Hands.
And the Ultra Ball makes that come true. Lightning energy going to the discard pile, prepping for that Iron Hands down the road. Ultra Ball probably just has to grab a barrel at this point.
Yeah, the barrel is an option. Could also be that Radiant Greninja. There is an extra energy card in the hand. The barrel is a little bit awkward. It does have 2 retreats, so you wouldn't be able to move it out of the active if you just evolved before, attaching. You would need that extra energy card. But Jared maybe realizing at this point that he's not going to do much this turn most likely anyways. He's okay to get that extra energy on the Bibarel. And then if you do pull off the 2 energy retreat, in a lot of decks that feels very costly, but in Chien-Pao, when you can combine it with that super cold, it's not that bad.
And this is, the cornerstone, I think, of Chien-Pao decks, where they can get off to very aggressive, explosive starts or very awkward starts like this, where it takes a lot of time for them to get set up and actually get a threat in play. Fortunately, versus Gardevoir, you feel more comfortable having that time, and eventually Radiant Greninja and Chien-Pao are found thanks to that. And the retreat, Chien-Pao comes into the active, uses Shivery Chill. You can search your deck for 2 basic water energy, put those in the hand, and now the threat potential is being presented properly by this Chien-Pao deck.
Yeah, shout-outs to the old school energies as well from Jared Grimes. Like to see it. Those are energy cards from EX Power Keepers way back in the day.
The old energies, they really do go hard, I'm not going to lie.
Did find a Pokestop, it looks like. It looks like we're going to spin that wheel as well. 3 cards discarded from the top. Down goes Baxcalibur and a Bibarel and another Pokestop. Jake Gearhart liked to see that.
The Pokestop giveth and taketh away. Super Rod has to be the card now. Get that Baxcalibur back in the deck. And a Frigibax as well, just for good measure. And because of superior energy retrieval, Jared, of course, is just going to keep those energies in the discard pile.
And it will be the pass now from Jared. Jake over on his end. Are we going to see that turn to Mirage Step? Is that the play?
Fog Crystal can get the Kirlia. Actually opts for a Psychic Energy. Yeah, it looks like he's already prepping for that, getting the Mew out of the active.
Yeah,
I don't know if I saw the Kirlia in hand already, though.
Yeah, not sure if it was in hand or not. Does need to find either a Level Ball or an Ultra Ball to get that piece out. Fog Crystal just grabbing that basic energy for now. It looks like Worker will have to be the move.
Beautiful. Finds the...
Ultra Ball.
Yep, finds the Ultra Ball. Can grab Kirlia now and for the Mirage Step. Now, the issue, too, is that you're taking another kind of slower play while this Chien-Pao is in the active, while that Baxcalibur had just been shuffled back in with the Super Rod. I think you have to go for it here, but it's not a very comfortable choice.
There's a rare candy found off this Mysterious Tail, a very strong card to have access to. Maybe not this specific turn. Well, there is a Gardevoir EX in the hand, so we could see that turn to Rare Candy into Gardevoir. I don't think Jake could do too much with it. I mean, technically he could go for the Zacian attack, but that would not really be worth it. He really should value his setup here. And with the Kirlia being brought to the front of the deck and this Ultra Ball finding Mirage Step, I think that's the angle we're going to see. Yeah,
Mirage Step, getting all the additional Kirlias in play, allows you to always have something that can evolve into Gardevoir, to keep your attackers going, to have that Gardevoir EX ready and available. And it just means that that's much more threats that Jared has to kind of chew through with the Chien-Pao. And if Baxcalibur does not hit in order to make an attack happen finally on this next turn, it means that this Mirage Step Gambit from Jake Gearhart won't be appropriately punished at all.
You're not able to grab 3 Kirlia, only 2 bench spaces available, but getting the pair of Kirlia into play is still pretty solid, and it does, of course, have that 1 Ralts to work with on the next turn.
So here's Irida now in the hand. You grab a water Pokemon and the item card, and this is, the perfect combination to grab the Baxcalibur and the Rare Candy, whichever one you might be missing.
Yeah.
And now Super Gold going to start hitting the stage.
Yeah, sometimes you're missing both of them, which seems like it was the case here for Jared Grimes. The big question for me here is, can Jared get to the Iron Hands EX this turn? That is really what he would like to make happen. He has an Iono already in his hand. Can't use that. Did play the Irida. Is going to just draw with the Bibarel. Let's see what he gets.
Just 2 off the Bibarel. Nothing really to play down. Can go for Shivery Chill now. I didn't see a way in the hand to get the Iron Hands EX.
Yeah, he's going to need 2 pretty good cards off this Radiant Greninja to pull it off. Needs a superior energy retrieval and then also a way to get the Iron Hands. It is still possible, but literally needs that 2-card combo.
Let's see.
They're superior. Oh, and Bibarel, not a way to get Iron Hands EX into play.
So close. But what is nice here, though, Chip, is that the threat of the Iron Hands is always going to be hanging over Jake Gearhart's head. And for now, it looks like Chin Pao is just going to be able to take a single prize.
Yeah, and this is really awkward, though. This is not the prize you want to take. Using your Chien Pao, which is a 2-prize Pokemon, to only take 1 single prize, it does put you ahead, but that is going to activate all of Jake's most powerful cards in his deck. Counter Catcher, Reversal Energy, both being online and options available to him at this point.
And then you're just getting rid of those 2 energy, and we've seen Chen Pao decks struggle sometimes when they have to take a lot of awkward attacks early, and you're incredibly over-reliant on those superior energy retrievals and super rods just to keep your threat potential alive.
Yeah, Jake's hand is very good here. I think he's got the option to do basically whatever he wants in this spot. Gonna play that Fog Crystal initially here.
Oh, grabbing Screamtail, that's a nice threat. Start chipping away at the Bibarel, get rid of that second Frigibax, etc. with the Roaring Scream. This means, of course, that Gardevoir EX is going to be entering the play area soon.
Yeah, probably will even just take out this Baxcalibur, to be honest. It's almost like the math lines up perfectly. It's almost like the Screamtail was made with Baxcalibur in mind. If you have those 8 damage counters on the Screamtail, it does the perfect 160 damage to knock out the Baxcalibur on the bench.
And after this level ball's found off the Mysterious Tail, that's going to be resulting in even more grabbing out of the deck, just thinning down. Finally, Rare Candy being used. Gardevoir EX now entering play. Psychic Embrace going to turn all of these bench Pokemon into potential threats. How many Psychic Energies do we have access to, Chip? Just 5 for right now.
Yep, all he's going to need at this point. Can even get an extra energy attachment maybe onto a Kirlia if he wants it. Psychic Embrace will put 2 damage counters on that active Mew, retreating it to the bench, and now 4 energy can be brought onto this Screamtail. Have to imagine Baxcalibur is going to be the target, especially with Jared having no extra energy cards in play.
Had to play a full Irida to get both pieces to get this Baxcalibur down. So if Jared Grimes can't get another Baxcalibur immediately to keep this, up and running, this whole Chen Pao engine.
Another option could be to KO the Bibarel. Take that out right now. Jared doesn't have another Bidoof in play, and that way your Ionos later in the game become a lot stronger. That is another potential strategy that Jake could employ.
And both of those seem like fantastic options, Chip. Taking out the Baxcalibur to just deny the attacking potential, or playing towards the late game by taking down the Bibarel.
Now, we do know Jared did have that superior energy retrieval in his hand last turn, didn't choose to use it. And something you can do as a Chien Pao player if you're worried about your Baxcalibur going down is load extra energy cards into play on the turn before you think it could be KO'd. So Jared could have potentially done that, gotten a couple extra energy cards in play significantly on the Chien Pao EX in the active, so all he would need to do is attach 1 more energy card, but now he's going to be looking for a way to piece together another Rare Candy Baxcalibur.
Yep, Screamtail does take that attack, and Jared's going for the heavy ball. There is that Chen Pao in the prizes from earlier that can be grabbed. That's access to potentially 2 Shivery Chills to get some extra water energy in the hand, but without the Baxcalibur, it becomes so difficult to get the Chen Pao set up for Hail Blade. It needs to have at least 2 energy minimum attached to it.
Yeah, that 1 superior energy retrieval in the prize cards is also something we're going to want to keep our eyes on, something that could definitely matter later on in the game. These are the last 2 energy cards in the deck being pulled out now with this Shivery Chill.
And it means that Jared Grimes is going to be fully reliant once more on these item cards to keep this attacking chain up and running. Radiant Greninja has to find the Baxcalibur.
Does find that Irida at least, so we can see Rare Candy Baxcalibur. The question to me is going to be, can Jared pull off the Iron Hands this turn? And he would need quite a lot. He needs to put 2 energy cards on the active Chien Pao in order to retreat it to the bench. He needs to get the Iron Hands EX on the bench and then load 4 energy cards up onto it.
And I think that this is just too tall in order. Jake Gearhart has, especially if you're taking out that Baxcalibur, it's forcing Jared to take these awkward off turns, these in-between turns to reestablish the engine, to reestablish the threat potential. And now that Jake Gearhart kind of has the tempo with this Screamtail and the Gardevoir is coming to take its place once it goes down, I don't know if Jared can ever really threaten the Iron Hands.
Yeah, I think Jared is maybe a little unlucky, to be honest, in this spot to not find off that concealed cards either a Nest Ball, Ultra Ball, or Rare Candy. If he had gotten just one of those 3 cards, he would have been able to use Irida to get whatever other piece he needed, either the Rare Candy or the Ball Search card to get the Iron Hands out to pull off the attack this turn. As it stands, though, he is going to come up just short. And once again, we're probably going to have to see yet another Hail Blade. Now, something he could do to work in a 1-prize attacker is we could see 2 energy go onto the Chien Pao and 1 energy onto this Frigibax, and we could see the Chili, a 1 energy attack that only deals 10 damage, but it is enough to KO this Screamtail with 80 damage on it.
Unbelievable. Chili for the knockout. Screamtail goes down. Jared's going to take 1 more prize, and by having a single prize attacker in the active, you're able to keep manipulating this prize race in your favor. Try to buy just 1 more turn for Iron Hands EX to come through and be the real threat. Jake promoting the Shining Arcana Gardevoir into the active spot.
And some pretty powerful cards in the hand as well. A couple of Counter Catcher and a few different supporter options here. There is the Avery, which lets you draw 3 cards and then forces your opponent to discard a Pokemon from play. And then also the Iono that you could levy as a disruption option. Jared has been doing a good job of building up his hand. Plenty of options available to him on the future turns.
And if the Bibarel does ever go down, as you said, the Iono becomes that much more effective. Jake decided not to take it down, so might hold back on going for heavy disruption.
Yeah, Jake, in this spot, I think I would like to see him go after the Baxcalibur once again. Jared is down 1 Baxcalibur in the discard pile. He's also down 1 Super Rod already. He is only playing 2 copies of Super Rod. We do see Baxcalibur players sometimes working that 3rd copy into the list, but Jake has seen cross switchers in Jared's deck.
Right.
And while cross switchers are extremely powerful, from a deck building perspective, they take up a ton of space. You basically have to play 4 of them for it to really make sense to play that card. So Jake can probably make a pretty safe assumption that Jared is not playing 3 Super Rod just based off the fact that he's seen the cross switcher already.
And after the Avery, Jared has to make a decision here to discard. Chien Pao is potentially being eyeballed here, wants to keep the Radiant Greninja, needs the card draw, has to keep finding resources out of the deck. Counter Catcher was activated, and that means that we don't need Screamtail to take down the Baxcalibur any longer. Comes up into the active spot, and now things get very dicey for Jared.
Yeah, I think for Jared here to work his way into this game, he's going to need to take two prize knockouts in a row, and it's going to need to be Iron Hands, or something like Iron Hands, then Chien Pao KOing a Gardevoir EX.
And if I'm remembering correctly, Chip, I think that other Super Rod is in the prizes.
Oh, is it? That could be a big deal, because that means both Baxcaliburs are in the discard pile. So that would be really bad if that is the case, because that means there's no more Super Cold through the rest of this game.
And Chili was enough to deal 10 to take down the Screamtail, but this Gardevoir is hanging out with a little bit more HP than that, certainly. Radiant Greninja promoted into the active.
A couple of Cross Switcher in the hand, and there is an Irida as well. If there is a Super Rod, we'll probably see it right now. Ultra Ball can also be used to get any Pokemon out that Jared does want. He needs quite a bit here. Let's see what the Irida finds. Is Super Rod in the deck? I don't see it. Oh, no, there is that Super Rod in the deck. He does have access to it. It's a little hard to tell when every single card that Jared is playing that can be gold is gold. They do blend together just a little bit, but sure enough, Super Rod is available.
All right, so Crisis averted. Super Rod can be grabbed. Get the Baxcalibur back into the deck at the very least. And you have to find the Baxcalibur all over again, get the Chien Pao set up, and once again, attacking with an awkward 2-prizer in the active. It's still not looking too great for Jared.
Yeah, Jared, I think this turn needs to establish the Baxcalibur, and then pull off the cross-switcher KO on Gardevoir EX. That's the play that Jared really needs to go for this turn. It's quite a bit to piece together. It is entirely possible to do. He, I think,
And that's
has all the
6
cards
energy
to do it.
for Hailblade?
That's right, and he's got 2 energy in play plus superior energy retrieval, so he should have access to all of those options.
Attachment for turn onto the Frigibax.
Yeah, maybe would like to see Jared use that energy as a discard option off the Ultra Ball he needs to play, the Superior he needs to play. You know, there's lots of ways he can get all these other cards back from the discard pile. Oftentimes, Ultra Balling away a Water Energy just to retrieve it later with the Superior Energy Retrieval is pretty nice. Of course, has not used concealed cards yet, I don't believe, so that could be something else he tries to utilize here. Let's see how he sequences this turn.
Yeah.
Also, in addition to getting down a Baxcalibur, he does need to get down another Frigibax.
Yeah. If you don't have the Frigibax, then it's just Baxcalibur getting knocked out again
Yeah.
and again and again. And that's been the story of this entire Game 1, Chip, is Jared just scrambling to get the Baxcalibur back in play.
And we will see the Ultra Ball, but not playing the Super Rod first.
Wait.
Yeah, I think we got to play the Super Rod first.
Yeah.
Jared
right.
even saying, I forgot to do something.
Yeah, you can see how many layers Jared's been calculating down, thinking about attaching the energy to Frigibax, trying to set it for Buster Tail, considering the Iron Hands now. Now with Chien-Pao in the active spot, thinking about Shivery Chill. I don't even think there's any more energy in the deck, as you already said, Chip.
Yeah, there isn't any energy in the deck, but there is an energy that can go back with this Super Rod. And I think that's what we're seeing here. Now, I will say, with what Jared has access to, I think he needs to put back Baxcalibur with this Super Rod. Both Baxcalibur, I should say, because if he's only putting back one Baxcalibur, then Jake knocks out that one Baxcalibur. Jared actually does not have a way to get it back.
And it's great about this deck, too, is when the Baxcaliburs are getting knocked out, it's like, oh, sure, you're taking a bunch of single prize attacks, but it's a single prize attacker that enables every other attack in the deck. So you're also defusing your opponent's ability to even punish you for taking this incredibly slow line to victory.
And by choosing to just put back the Baxcalibur and then the one energy card as well, I think this is Jared saying, I don't think I'm going to have the resources in this game to pull off a fourth Rare Candy Baxcalibur. And in fact, it's actually impossible because he only plays 3 Rare Candy. So this is the last time that he can utilize it. Is able to find those pieces. Rare Candy into that Baxcalibur. Shivery Chill can go get the energy card as well that he just put back.
And if this Baxcalibur goes down, that means that the Iron Hands is just completely off the table as well. This was a powerful Pokemon for the matchup. It was something that Jared had set up turn 1 by getting that lightning energy into the discard pile. Radiant Greninja, find Iron Hands right now. Get that on the bench. There's a Nest Ball.
There is a Nest Ball, but I don't think Jared can load enough energy.
Yeah, there's not enough to go around.
There's not enough to go around, right? 8 water energy in the list and the 1 lightning energy. And you have to discard 6 water energy in order to KO this Gardevoir this turn.
And Superior. All right. So it's going to be all in the back of Chien-Pao from this position.
Yeah, I have to assume that Jake is going to be really going after the Baxcalibur at this position. We'll see how Jared spreads his energy in this spot.
And then this final Nest Ball just brings out another Chien-Pao, I guess.
Potentially.
He may drop a couple bonus energies on there.
He may hold on to it, and he actually may even just discard it right now with the Superior Energy Retrieval, depending on what's available still in his deck. But it will be discarding the Battle VIP Pass and the Irida instead. And it looks like 4 basic water energy being the choice.
And this is kind of reminding me a bit of Lost Zone, Chip, right? Where there's like very specific counts of where your energy needs to go, thinking so far ahead of time. And normally, I think that Chien-Pao just has a reputation for, I got set up and I'm just kind of doing Hailblade and I have Super Cold and things are all hunky-dory. But this thin energy count, squeezing in the lightning energy as well, means that you have to be much more specific where everything is going.
Jared here really having a hard time piecing this together.
Yeah, he's really deep in the tank.
Yeah. It looks like it is going to be 4 energy. He does find himself in a pretty awkward spot, and it's really tough as a player when you're playing a deck like Chien-Pao that just has so many different options at any given time. It's really hard to identify what the correct singular one is. And really at this spot, Jared is kind of having to hope to get lucky, I think, to win this game. He can take this KO, take the 2 prize cards on the Gardevoir EX. He'll be pretty reasonably far ahead, but all Jake is going to need is to KO this Baxcalibur, and then the game is all but over, to be honest.
And every single slow attachment onto a potential attacker is just telegraphing the Pokemon that you're trying to pivot to close out.
Yeah.
And then Jake, again, with that tempo, can just very easily take it down. Counter catcher reversal still online as Jake Gearhart has piloted this position to Gardevoir loves to fight from behind, similar to Giratina V-Star, and it's just paying off here as he's taxed Jared Grimes' resources over and over and over again.
Yeah, even hits an extra energy card off that Shining Arcana to get 1 more energy into play. A little nice bonus effect of the Gardevoir. It'd be good enough if it just drew you 2 cards, but how about accelerating energy cards into play as well?
And we've seen that matter a lot, Chip, in certain matchups where you need to hit that additional number of damage.
Now, as Jake in this position, what he needs to be thinking about is, okay, if I knock out this Baxcalibur, I'm going to be very far ahead. I've got a pretty good shot to just close out and win this game. How do I avoid ever putting myself in a position where I could potentially lose? And one of the ways that Jake could find himself in a tough spot would be if Iono came through. But yeah, just Jake knocking out the Baxcalibur is going to be enough for Jared to say, I can't win this. I'm going to concede. Let's go to game 2.
Yeah, and just having the 3 rare candy, even though he was able to find it, just wasn't enough to actually protect the Baxcalibur. And this has been, you know, the big weakness of Chen Pao, I would say, is just an over-reliance on that Pokemon. And now, getting into game 2, Jared can hopefully pivot, get lucky with the early Iron Hands like he was meant to do, maybe get 2 Baxcalibur set up, and you can already see like the early awkwardness of having to discard 2 water energy just to take 1 prize on the Mirage step. Baxcalibur number 1 going down to Screamtail. Even though you have the second Frigibax ready to go, it's just not enough to keep the pressure on.
This is a top moment of the day, regardless of Jared winning or losing this game. Chili for 1 energy, 10 damage, takes out the Screamtail. Chili becoming the strongest soldier, but not quite enough to ultimately close out the game.
Yeah, and then there was that awkward decision, right, with the Avery having to discard a Chen Pao in order to keep Radiant Greninja in play to have a couple shots at getting some card draw.
And Jake, this is where he set up just the ultimate board that Jared really had no way to come back from. Jared there, I think, is playing to an angle of really hoping Jake maybe prized counter catcher boss's orders and wouldn't find the pieces to get the KO on that Baxcalibur. If that Baxcalibur had hung around, Jared definitely could have won the game on the next turn, but
yeah,
Jake just had way too many ways to deal with it.
And when we head into game 2, it's going to be a completely new ball game. We saw the potential for Iron Hands in those early couple turns to come through, take, you know, a handful of early prizes to really build up a lead for Jared Grimes. But Jake has just been very cool and collected, has had the game 1 in the palm of his hand, and setting up now Frigibax in the active spot, Ultra Ball being the case, and there's the Iron Hands in hand.
I gotta tell you, as someone who has played Chen Pao to a tournament, this little bugger right here is just about the most annoying thing you could start in your entire deck. The other Frigibax has 1 retreat. If you start it, you can just retreat into a Chen Pao, Shivery Chill, get a bunch of energy into your hand, and then you're chilling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chili is chilling in the active spot with 2 retreat right now, so all those plays are taken off the table. This guy is so annoying to move out of your active. You basically have to cross switcher or attach to it 2 times. Jared could have had a pretty solid start here as it stands, though. Ooh, does find the VIP pass. That's, I think, going to make up for it a little bit.
Okay, okay. And Jared already had taken a very slow start in game number 1 and is probably happy to still play things a little bit slower here now with the fat Frigibax in the active. And this is potentially not too bad now.
Yeah, it looks like another Frigibax and a Bidoof potentially being the option. Could also get a Chen Pao into play. You really want to utilize that to get some extra energy into your hand at some point. Again, because Frigibax has the 2 retreat, you can't do it this turn. And I did see the Iron Hands already in Jared Grimes' hand. So if he can draw enough energy cards and also find his Lightning energy, we could see that turn 2 amp you very much.
Yep, so just going to pass over. The reason, of course, the players play this 70 HP Fissurbacks, despite its detriment as a starting Pokemon, is just to have that extra insurance versus Sableye.
Really good versus Iron Valiant as well.
Oh, very true, very true. And Jake Gearhart opens up with Ultra Ball, discarding 2 Psychic Energy, which you need to get those into the discard pile for your Psychic Embrace later on in the game. Taking a look through the deck now, evaluating what those prize cards are and where the opener's going to start.
Yeah, the Jirachi's pretty useless in this matchup. Really not something Jake wants to put into play. But, you know, you play so many tech Pokemon in your list, you're going to be bound to start them at some point. And really interesting right away to see Jake super heavily valuing this Manaphy. He knows how bad it can be for him to have his board Moonlight Shurikened away, gets that Wave Veil protection into play right away because of that.
Yeah, even if you're sacrificing a couple bench spots with the Manaphy and now the Jirachi, the rest of your routes will do plenty of heavy lifting to keep you in the game. We know that Jared is in a position to most of the time only be able to strike at whatever's already in the active spot, and you know that those routes are going to continue to be safe.
The turn 1 Iono here, pretty good for Jake, but also not too bad for Jared. I think he had a pretty clunky hand, a pair of Super Rod in that opening hand, one of them already being discarded.
Yeah, and that means that the Iron Hands is going to be back in the deck now.
It's true, it's true. You don't want to commit to it too early because you're not guaranteed to pull off the turn 2 amp you very much, so it makes sense to not bench it. And now with it being shuffled back into the deck makes it almost even less likely that he'll be able to pull it off.
Fog Crystal for a Mew. This is a lot of Pokemon that aren't routes, Chip. Now I'm starting to get a bit worried.
But that's why we get the Mew, so that we can find ways to get more routes potentially. And of course, you always have that insurance of going for that Mirage Step angle.
Yep, Attach, Retreat, Mysterious Tail, looking for Battle VIP Pass, Nest Ball, something. Fog Crystal, anything, just a rare candy.
Yeah, just a rare candy is going to be the grab here. And there is a little bit of danger here for Jake. Only 1 Ralts in play. Jared is playing the Cross Switcher, so... Oh. And he does top deck the second one. Okay, and you can see Jared kind of... He's got the wheels turning. He's got a Chien-Pao in the hand. He's got an Irida. He has the pieces to KO Jake's only Ralts in play.
Irida is going to find the rare candy back. Excalibur, Cross Switcher is going to bring that Ralts into the active with Chien-Pao for Shivery Chill. And Jared does not want to missequence this at all, just taking his moment to think through.
Yeah, I think he was debating just going for Pokestop to start with instead of the Irida, and even we heard him for a moment there saying, the last thing I want to do is mill my back Excalibur, playing it safe, going for the Irida first. But I do feel like a Pokestop is in the future.
Yeah, once you get your important cards out of the deck, definitely go for it, because even if you were to Pokestop first, you know, what are you hitting that you can't just get later on?
Yeah. Rare candy, Ultra Ball, Nest Ball.
I mean, but you've got the Irida.
Yeah, but it would be nice to get one of those cards in your hand so then you can Irida for something else, right, to help you prep for something in the future. But as it stands,
that's certainly a great debate. How greedy do you want to play it when you've got 1 route sitting on the bench served up on a silver platter?
Yeah, and I think Jared wisely just going to play it out in this way. He's going to go for the Shivery Chill, and Jake saying, my 1 rout's going down. I'm going to be too far behind. Let's scoop this up. We're going to game 3.
Wow. You can see the potential, the volatility of this match. We know that Gardevoir can have these awkward starts, and it happens a lot with only 1 routes that's in danger or 2 routes. But your opponent needs to be able to punish that. And fortunately, Jared Grimes getting that second Cross Switcher in the hand made it all possible.
Yeah, really fortunate sequence there for Jared. If Jake had not played the Iono, Jared wouldn't have maybe found all of those pieces, but ends up working out pretty solidly. That concealed cards into the VIP pass was huge, though.
Yeah, and if the Cross Switcher wasn't there, maybe Jared does extend a bit, right, with the Pokestop, trying to find those pieces to get the punish. When you only get the 1 routes, you can't get off the ground anymore. It's basically a mirror of game 1 where your important Pokemon that supports the rest of your deck just continuously gets sniped down and you cannot get the attackers up and running.
18 minutes left. Should be enough time for us to finish a full game 3. I do love to see the concede from Jake there. You know, hold out, see if your opponent is able to pull off the Cross Switchers. If they're not, of course, he could get that turn 2 Mirage Step and feel like he's in a decent spot, but with that Ralts going down, he knows I've just got to go to game 3 if I want a good shot to get to 5-0. And that's a huge prize, the Iron Hands EX.
Oh no, it was so important for game number 1, definitely the difference maker of victory and defeat in that game. And then game number 2, fortunately, was not needed, but here in game 3, when all the chips are down, I think it definitely is going to be a requirement. Hopefully Jared can fish out of the prizes quickly, but Jake opens up, Screamtail in the active, level ball, searching through the deck and finding something that can turn the rest of this deck online.
Yeah, a little awkward. Has a bunch of Kirlia in his opening hand. I think there is an Iono as well, so it can actually be nice to have those Kirlia in your opening hand if you're going to go for that Mirage Step play.
He considers the level ball, of course, always respecting the Radiant Greninja.
Yeah, and then has a Fog Crystal to go now get that Ralts. He knows he wants to get that Manaphy into play. A little interesting, though, could have made an argument to actually just hold the level ball because level ball guarantees a next turn Mirage Step.
Yeah, and just passes over. Pokestop for a little bit more research. Goes for the concealed cards first of all.
And
discards Lightning Energy. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's normally really nice. Get that Lightning Energy in the discard pile, but Jared's going to get the sad news off these nest balls that there is no Iron Hands available.
And this is great, too, because you know Jared is already thinking, oh, yes, the Iron Hands. I've got the Lightning Energy. This is great. But after looking through the deck, there is one heavy ball in the list, however. So hopefully Jared can find that out, pick it up with the Irida.
Yeah, there's plenty of ways to find it, and that is going to be something Jared definitely is making note of here. He still can pull off that Iron Hands, but he's going to have to work a little harder to do it.
And this is important to note as well, Chip, you know, with the double nest ball, going for the Frigibax and the Bidoof, not trying to get cheeky with the double Frigibax, needs to have the guarantee of some additional draw with that Bibarel.
He does still need another Frigibax, though. If he only puts one Frigibax in play, there is a chance of a turn 2 Cresselia from Jake. It is a little unlikely. So not the...
Oh, no!
What?
The Iridas, no! We need those, Chip, to get the Hisui and Heavy Ball for the Iron Hands, to get the rare candy.
Yeah, he doesn't need it this turn, but yeah, he needs it at some point. And with 2 Irida going down right off that Pokestop, that is really not good.
If Giratina is the biggest bait deck, I think that Pokestop is the biggest bait card. It's just bias from the stream, I guess, but I always see it be completely disastrous.
Well, how about a hand here from Jared Grimes? 6 cards from the Iono, 2 Battle VIP Pass. He's going to be able to get that extra Frigibax into play. He's going to get another Bidoof even, it looks like.
Ooh.
He could fill his bench and get a Chimpao as well, but that would mean he doesn't have the bench space for the Iron Hands. That's something he's going to want to consider. I think I'd like to see a Frigibax and a Chimpao come down and then maybe leave a bench space open.
Yeah, if you leave the bench space open, you're always going to be able to threaten that Iron Hands against the opponent at any time. If you fill up the bench, then Jake can breathe a sigh of relief and say, okay, despite everything, I know that I don't have to worry about Iron Hands. So keeping that threat potential is certainly key.
There is even a Chimpao in the hand right now for Jared Grimes. He could even save this Battle VIP Pass in the hand. Can't use it next turn, but it's great discard fodder for Ultra Ball and for Superior Energy Retrieval.
Ooh, very efficient.
Instead, going to use that Battle VIP Pass now to get a Chimpao out of the deck, and now that Chimpao in the hand can become some of that discard fodder, so it does work out. And
yeah,
also,
and then you're getting a card out of your hand to set up for Industrious Incisors.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of different ways to slice up this turn for sure.
Shivery Chill, that's a nice way to do it as well. Pull those 2 energy into the hand and just make it easy to piece together something next turn. Jared really going to be looking for that Hisuian Heavy Ball. If he can find Heavy Ball next turn, he's going to really have a good shot to pull off the turn 2 Amp You very much.
With 2 Irida down, however, getting the rare candy in the back Excalibur is going to be a little tougher.
He's going to need a lot, for sure. But it is entirely possible.
Yep, so Screamtail getting an energy attached to it right off the bat. Iono now. Now, Jake was already setting up for the potential Mirage Step.
He's going all in on the Mirage Step here because he had another Ralts in his hand. Chose not to bench it. Needs to find a way to get Mirage Step, and I don't see it in this hand.
Oh, no. What a punish. Pokestop.
He's going for the Pokestop. No way to find it there either. He does at least have an Artisan that can get another Ralts into play. But Jake really went all in on trying to find Mirage Step here, choosing not to bench a Ralts.
And the Iono just
and it
completely
almost
shut
comes back
that
to bite
down.
him. Yeah, and he's actually even going to go for the Mew here. Mysterious Tail. This is extremely risky. If Jake does not find a way to get a Ralts into play, we could see a Game 2 situation all over again.
So your Mysterious Tail, you've attached to Scream Tail, retreat to get Mew into the active. Even if you get the Mirage Step, how do you get this Mew out of the active?
He can't get off the Mirage Step this turn, but he can get his board developed a little bit more, thin more cards out of the deck. Going for that Mew there is definitely a little risky, but it is going to pay off. Level Ball can still at least find one more Ralts. Oh, it's actually going to be another Curlia to keep drawing cards. Okay, we're abandoning the Mirage Step. Our bench is a little full. We just need to draw some more Ralts here. That makes sense, too.
Okay, and again, pivoting into the Mew rather than the second Ralts means that Jake is also stretching thin with this Curly to grab something for a second Ralt.
But there's no second Ralts here.
Oh my goodness.
This is something here. This is quite the turn, and this is quite the opening as well for Jared Grimes. Can he do what he did in game number 1 and pull off the double cross switcher? Rare Candy Baxcalibur already in the hand. Ultra Ball is going to thin a couple cards out of that hand and grab the Bibarel. We're going to see a ton of cards drawn. Even with 2 less Irida in the deck, Jared is going to see a ton of cards this turn.
Yeah, after drawing all of these cards, there is, of course, the threat of just finding the Hisuian Heavy Ball, getting the Iron Hands, or just taking the prize with Chen Pao. Double cross switcher always lurking.
Yeah, Iron Hands is great, but here at this point, it's just all in on KO this Curlia. Doesn't find really anything to help him get there with this hand. Feels a little bit less likely now at this point.
Shivery Chill, Radiant Greninja.
He does still have
there's something
Pokestop
there
as well.
Oh yeah, and the Pokestop.
So it will be 2 energy from the Shivery Chill. That concealed cards, like you mentioned. Seeing 2 more. He's got the superior energy retrieval in hand. Really all he needs off of the top 5 cards of his deck is 2 cross switchers, right? If he can find them off the concealed cards, off the Pokestop, he's going to be so far ahead in this game.
But if it does not come through, Chip,
Right.
right? If we think about the other side of the equation, Jake Gearhart has the Curlia, has the refinement, gets some routes, maybe gets the Gardevoir down. It's still looking pretty awkward, I think.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, even if Jared does not find everything to pull off the play, Jake is still not in a great spot.
All right, Pokestop.
Spin the wheel first.
Super Rod, Superior, Ultra Ball.
That's no outs to the cross switcher.
Yeah, the hand is still getting pretty filled up, pretty awkward.
Here we go. 2 more cards.
Is there any sort of potential to do concealed cards and then Pokestop? Does it matter?
Yeah, if you Pokestop first, you might be able to find Ultra Ball or Nest Ball to thin some cards out of your deck before you go for the concealed cards. I think that's what Jared was thinking there.
But yeah, everything in the hand's so good, you don't even want to thin down any further.
Yeah, so it won't be the perfect turn with the cross switcher, but still getting ahead here by taking this knockout with Chien Pao EX is going to be pretty solid for Jared Grimes.
Ooh, and after grabbing that Super Rod, you know, can get rid of this Chen Pao as discard fodder, as you predicted. Giving some energy now to feed into the Super Cold from Baxcalibur and start taking knockouts.
You're debating leaving some energy in the discard pile. I think you should respect the potential of that Screen Tail that's on Jake's bench to take out your Baxcalibur, maybe something to think about. So loading some extra energy into play doesn't seem too bad.
Yeah, with the Manaphy there, having the threat of Moonlight Shuriken is still pretty good. Just have that extra single prize attacker you can promote, deal 90 to something.
Jake just going to have to send up the Curlia. Does have that reversal energy in hand. Pretty nice. Will make it a little bit easier to get this KO on Chien Pao EX.
All right, discards Battle VIP Pass for Refinement. Finds Level Ball and Iono. 8 minutes left on the clock. Almost 9. Has to bring this game to a conclusion soon. And when you're fighting from so far behind, it becomes difficult to take all the prizes you need to as quickly as you need to.
Yeah, that could ultimately become the issue for both of our players here.
Evolves into Gardevoir EX. Psychic Embrace is now online. Jake can power up Scream Tail to take out the Baxcalibur. Instead, just goes for the counter catcher to bring it into the active.
Yeah,
plus Iono.
I don't think he had enough energy cards. I think that was the issue to get to the Scream Tail KO. So just goes for the counter catcher.
Yeah, with only 1 refinement.
If he does find enough energy cards to discard here with something like an Ultra Ball, which he's pretty close to, he could still go for the Scream Tail, and I think that's what we're going to see. A little unfortunate that he did burn the counter catcher to do it, but it ends up, I think, being overall worthwhile. You give yourself the chance, if you don't find enough energy to put into the discard pile, that you can still get the KO regardless. And then if you do find the energies, you have the retreat into the Scream Tail.
And Jake is looking, of course, at Jared's discard pile, seeing how many energies are there, knows that there's another, superior energy retrieval potentially coming up.
And we're actually going to see Jake choosing to take out the Bibarel. He could have gotten that extra energy into the discard pile, but it would have forced him to go down to 0 cards in hand. So he didn't feel like that was worth it, choosing instead to take out the Bibarel, which is another decent line you can go for with this deck.
And this was exactly what we were exploring in game number 1. There was that split path of, do I take down the Baxcalibur or the Bibarel? And now without the extra draw power, Jared Grimes might have more difficulty finding the energy and finding those necessary cards to keep up the threat potential from this spot.
That Earthen Vessel is going to be solid to grab a couple energy cards out of the deck. Jared can try to establish another Bidoof here. That could be decent. Of course, that Iron Hands still in the prize cards, but if Hisuian Heavy Ball could be found or an Irida, that is something that could be on the table. Jared, I think for the first time past a turn 2 in this set, is going to not be pressured to find a way to get a Baxcalibur back into play.
And that's a huge sigh of relief as well. Pokestop finds another superior energy retrieval. Another Irida goes down. She is
tough.
not wanting to show up here in game number 3. It's going to be all on Jared Grimes' soldiers. Not going to be able to take the easy way to find these item cards.
Yeah.
And now with Bibarel gone, looks like the Hisuian Heavy Ball is completely off the table from this point.
Yeah, unless he just draws into it, which is entirely possible. Of course, 2 cards to come from this concealed cards. He's got a shot.
All right.
Doesn't find it, though. That Manaphy is honestly pretty decent, though. Putting Manaphy into play does protect you against future Scream Tail.
And you still have the extra bench spot for the Iron Hands whenever you need it. Jared's just going to Ultra Ball first.
He could take this turn to just get another Baxcalibur into play. He does have a couple of rare candy in the hand, so use that now to protect against your Baxcalibur going down. That is an option, but
Yeah.
might not have all the cards that he wants to do it.
With the superior energy retrievals and the Ultra Balls, there's so many cards you have to consider. This is not really a good card right now, but I might just want to keep it in my hand so I can discard it later. And now the Manaphy, after weighing the options of do I want to protect myself from Scream Tail versus just an easy discard target, opts to get rid of the Manaphy to get the second Baxcalibur up and running.
Yeah, it does have the rare candy into the Baxcalibur, but the tough thing here, oh man, the sequence is pretty awkward, honestly, from Jared. I think he could have gone for the superior first, potentially. Go for the superior, get those extra energy cards into your hand so that you can save the rare candy, because now he has 3 rare candy in his discard pile. So if both of these Baxcalibur go down, there's not realistically a way for him to pull off another one, but he might be saying, hey, at this position, if Jake is taking the time to KO these 2 Baxcalibur, I'll be okay. I'll be able to get far enough ahead. That'll give me enough time to get Iron Hands. And it's really hard to go after Baxcalibur whenever your opponent has an Iron Hands EX in play with 4 energy on it, 3 water energies and that lightning.
Jared also opting to keep more energy in the hand because of the double Baxcalibur.
One thing to point out as well, by the way, I mean, this is ridiculous for Jared Grimes. 3 Irida in the discard pile from the Pokestop, and that 4th Irida in the prize cards.
Prizes. So again, the ability to quickly search out that heavy ball to get the Iron Hands is just not there. Jake Gearhart, however, just responding back immediately with the Mirage Step.
The late game Mirage Step, a pretty rare play, but it's what Jake has to go for here. Concealed cards on Jared's end. Doesn't find too much that's helpful.
And what's great about the Mirage Step is even if you get it late, oh, there's the heavy ball.
This could be the time. I think he's got enough energy cards to do it. Are we throwing those hands?
The Iron Hands puts Jared Grimes in such a good position. Because of the Mirage Step, we know that the Shining Arcana Gardevoirs and the Gardevoir EXs are going to come out to play. It gives you massive targets to take multiple prizes potentially.
And this is the nightmare Jake Gearhart foresaw months and months and months ago. Iron Hands EX pumping his way into the active, using that amp you very much. There's going to be plenty of energy cards to do it because of the superior energy retrieval in Jared Grimes' hand.
All right, so after the energy retrieval, you can discard the VIP pass and probably the Bibarel. Yep, get all those energy cards out of the discard pile, plus that lightning. And here it comes. Attach, return, super cold, retreat, Iron Hands into the active.
Yeah.
Amp you very much for 2 prizes on the Raj Step
man.
Curlia.
Insult to injury, pumping the hands. And Jake
It's
Gearhart
a tradition at this point.
is such a huge mountain to climb at this spot. Jared has 2 prize cards remaining. Iron Hands in the active, 2 Excalibur in play, and Jake has barely done anything this game, and he's having to refinement away a Gardevoir EX.
After the rare candy into Shining Arcana Gardevoir to draw a couple more, you've got to take down the Iron Hands, obviously. You take 2 prizes, but Jared just has so much time now and potential to just knock out 2 easy targets. I'm already foreseeing a line chip where Jake Gearhart is going to have to promote the Gardevoir EX, something with massive HP into the active, and hope that Jared doesn't got it.
Huge hit there on the Pokestop, discarding the boss's orders. That's something that could have been nice later on in the game. Worker is going to discard that stadium now, draw 3 cards, does find the Super Rod. Could put something back, but Jared, as it stands, is going to have a shot to win the game on the next turn.
Yeah, still 2 minutes left on the clock. With the +3 scenario, Jared definitely has plenty of time to just announce a couple attacks and let it go. I think that he has 1 more superior energy retrieval available.
Yeah, he's counting them right now. There's 3 in the discard pile, and I'm not sure if there was 1 in his last prize. I know that the Irida was one of those last couple of prize cards.
And as you're trying to count, look at the heavy ball, look at the Excaliburs, might just be one of those cards that you didn't get around to actually checking the count of earlier in the game. But after the Gardevoir is set up, thanks to Gardevoir EX's Psychic Embrace plus a Reversal Energy, Iron Hands EX does go back to the discard pile.
Jake taking 2 prizes to go down to just 3 remaining. An energy found there off the prizes is pretty decent. And Jared spreading out the cards. There's not a lot of cards left in his deck. He must feel like he's got a decent shot to just hit what he needs here. There's the cross switchers in the hand. All he needs is that last superior energy retrieval. It's not in the prize cards. Heavy Ball does fail that search. And he's got the concealed cards to draw 2 here.
There is 1, is looking, oh man, if I go for concealed cards, do I have enough cards left in the deck in order to not deck myself out?
See it, needs superior. Super Rod. I think that's going to be close, though, because he can Super Rod the energies back. Iono can draw the rest of the deck. Does he have the superior in the deck is the only question here. And if he does, I think he's going to have the pieces to win the game. Well, wait. The problem with the Iono, though, is that he's only going to get 2 cards. There's a chance that the last card is the superior.
Unbelievable. I think that Jared Grimes just has to go for it. And it's like, in this scenario, when it seems like you're so far ahead, you've got the amp you very much, you've got that prize lead, but even with the Excaliburs in play, with the Chin Pow, with all of this energy, trying to find the resources to put together your attacks becomes such a tall order.
Jared does not have to win this game this turn, right? He is going to be turn 0. I think time has now just been called, so he'll have access to turn 2 as well. So that's something he really needs to think about here. You don't have to win the game this turn. You could, but is it worth like risking a chance of you just missing it and then giving your opponent away to force a tie potentially?
Yeah, and Jared is spending a lot of time calculating the odds, has been in these multiple awkward situations, having to make incredibly difficult choices. Super Rod, do I just put 3 energy back? Do I want to try to bring this Iron Hands back from the discard pile? But it all rides on this 4th superior energy retrieval.
He says it has to be in there, so he's thinking through and knows that the superior should
count it
be
slow
in his
for
deck.
us, Jared. Let's have a look here. All right, so Super Rod for 2 water energy.
And we'll see what he does here. I mean, if he goes for the Iono, he doesn't have enough cards to discard for the superior. He could use the cross switchers and then Iono. Okay, so here's what he can do.
Okay.
Cross switchers, bring up the Gardevoir, and then Iono putting the water energy in his hand on the bottom of the deck so that he can guarantee draw the energy from the Shivery Chill after the Iono. So if he hits the superior energy retrieval, he can just discard that.
Okay. So let's see if Jared Grimes finds that same line. Attaches the water energy.
The thing is, as well, he needs 6 energy cards. So it's a lot to try to hit here. He did just put 2 back. he's going for the Iono, not using the cross switchers here. So I think he's recognizing the situation, says I don't have to win this turn, isn't going to go all in with the switchers, and is just going to try to get a 1 prize KO this turn if he can.
Yeah, just the way the prize map and the tempo is played out in this game, Jared does have a nice buffer now to close out the game. Draws 2. One of them indeed is the superior.
He has to retreat into the Chien Pao in order to Shivery Chill. We know there's 2 energy in the deck.
And you can Shivery Chill for just 1. Does it matter?
You can just get the 1 if he wants to. There's a Super Rod remaining, double cross switcher, but it's going to be kind of difficult for Jared to find the 2 cross switcher next turn. It's going to come down to really the Radiant Greninja. But if he takes just the 1 prize here, he doesn't need nearly that much to knock out just a Gardevoir.
Yeah, and then when you assign this energy, right, you put 2 on the Chien Pao, and this other energy, does it go onto the second Chien Pao just to prep for the Hail Blade? Are you trying to play around something getting brought up into the active installed?
Yeah, I think that's something you have to consider all the different things your opponent could do here in this position, because Jake is going to be aware of the situation and knows he cannot win this game any longer, most likely. There is a chance because he'll be turn 1, so he goes 1 prize into 2 prizes. But he might recognize that with Jared having such a low deck size that it's going to be pretty easy for him to pull the pieces together. He might have to go for some sort of counter catcher stall play if Jared did run himself out of resources unintentionally.
So Nest Balls the play, puts the Frigibacks down. The remaining cards in the deck are 2 cross switchers. So after the draw for turn and then a concealed cards is going to guarantee double cross switcher for his next turn. And things are getting down to the wire, and you can see both players are being very specific about their calculations and where things are being assigned, just to not only avoid bricking yourself entirely out of the game, but avoiding deck outs, avoiding what your opponent can potentially do, where Jared's playing for the win, Jake potentially playing for a tie. Goes down to 1 prize card remaining, and it's the Irida.
Does have cross switcher that he found off the prizes, so that is pretty decent.
Okay.
But he may not need it. He just needs to get through whatever Jake's active is, most likely. Jake really trying to figure out what is his chance to win this game. And if you take 1 prize, you have to assume that your opponent is really likely going to be able to pull off the KO. Jake is going to send up the Gardevoir EX, so that tells me we're going to try to see probably a Boss's Orders or Counter Catcher play onto the Baxcalibur, probably the Radiant Greninja, honestly. Doing a Baxcalibur doesn't do anything for you, but if you can take out that Greninja, it can get rid of some of your opponent's potential draw.
Yeah, and we knew, I kind of figured that Jake was going to end up in this position, right? Gardevoir EX in the active, has a lot of HP, and just hope that this can hold the fort, and it's very difficult for Chien Pao to reach those levels, right? To find here at the bottom of the 9th, the 6 energies you need to discard.
2 energies found. 1 more can be discarded with another refinement. Thinking through all the options here. Going to go for potentially that Shining Arcana first. I think he's got a Super Rod in hand as well. The Zacian in the discard pile could be the easiest way for him to close out the game next turn on a Chien Pao, for example.
Yeah, so you want to maybe save the Super Rod? No, just put the Zacian back in, right? Because there's a chance you naturally draw into it. You don't have to dig as much.
Yeah, I mean, he also could just close out the game with a Gardevoir pretty easily, so doesn't really need to worry about clogging his deck with that piece. Going to put back the Cresselia, though.
And so Jared Grimes has the potential win next turn with 1 attack. Jake Gearhart trying to prep for 2 turns worth of attackers and having enough resources in between them. Shining Arcana finds a Psychic Energy.
That's pretty nice. That's 1 less damage counter you may have to put on the Gardevoir EX. If Jake could have found 2 energy on a Shining Arcana, he would have actually been able to not damage his Gardevoir at all, which would mean Jared still needs the full 6 energy cards to get the KO. But, you know, with 1 damage counter likely having to be placed on this Pokemon, Jared will just need 5 energy to close out the KO.
That is very important to note. Another Shining Arcana found. Evolves and draws 2. Grabs Screamtail and Cresselia. Screamtail hitting the bench. Great way to snipe down those Baxcaliburs, as we've seen time and time again, Chip. And now that time has been called, the players know exactly what needs to happen for both of their win conditions here.
Countercatcher is going to bring up the Frigibax. So what we could see is Frigibax being stalled in the active. It's got 2 retreat and doesn't really have great attacks. We saw Chili get in there, and then maybe Screamtail try to snipe around it a little bit. That could be the play.
All right, and this is, yeah, looks like the attached return. And now Iono.
And that does put that superior energy retrieval on the bottom of the deck here for Jared Grimes. Only going to get one card.
One card.
Jake thinking through all the different scenarios here.
Yeah,
He's
this is a bit of a big punish too, right? With the Frigibacks now stuck in the active, one card on the Iono.
I think we're going to see the Screamtail. Jared with only one card in hand, even if he gets the superior energy retrieval, it's not enough to play it. So maybe Jake took note of how many energy cards were in Jared's discard pile. If he doesn't have any energy left in the deck, you know that Chili is not on the table, so you can go for the Screamtail to KO something on the bench. We could also see the Screamtail KO just the Radiant Greninja.
Yeah, and Jared Grimes is looking very distraught here, knows that, you know, the victory versus the tie is all up to a couple draws from this position. And now with Screamtail kind of entering back in the game, it might be messing up his calculations, his vision for how this end game is going to play out.
Very few cards left in deck for both players. Cresselia found off this Fog Crystal. I think what Jake is debating here is how likely is it that Jared has just a single energy card? And if there is no basic water energy left in the deck, he can safely go for the Screamtail KO, but he's actually going to choose to pass. I think, and this is Jake recognizing low chance to win the game, does everything he can to make sure that he doesn't just tie. And Jared left, or doing everything he can to make sure he at least gets a tie out of this. And Jared draws for turn, has a Super Rod, has a cross switcher, but just no way to close things out here.
Yeah,
he has no plays.
Yeah, no way to discard for the Radiant Greninja. Can't get the Frigibacks out of the active, and it is a tie.
Wow. What a game. What a wild situation, to be honest, there.
The late Iono to put that superior energy retrieval down on the bottom, denying it's when you go down to, you know, low prizes versus Gardevoir, it's similar to Giratina in that way where it's built around having these come from behind victories.
I gotta feel like that game just got away from Jared Grimes, to be honest. He, I think, was in an excellent position in those closing turns, and then just that last turn, things just kind of fell apart for him. A few maybe awry decisions, not really doing exactly what would set him up for winning on a future turn, thinking a little bit too much about winning immediately. I'm not sure what the situation was, but he comes up just short, and this game ends in a tie.
Yeah, but certainly Chen Pao versus Gardevoir, a much more grindy matchup than I was certainly anticipating, Chip. Both players going down to just a handful of cards left in the deck. Every single ounce of resources squeezed out of both lists, trying to put together these attacks. And even in Game 1 and Game 2, we saw how explosive the early turns can be for determining the victor. And then Game 3 was much more on an awkward trajectory from the get-go because Jake went so far down the path of trying to find Mirage Step and whiffed, but then Jared was playing this kind of long con towards the Iron Hands and didn't try to go aggressive and punish that.
And then Game 2 here, I mean, Jake starting Jirachi super suboptimal, really not ideal, and then Jared with the turn 2 double cross switcher to KO Jake's only Ralts, and Jake just saying, yeah, can't win from this position, let's go to Game 3.
And then the Iridas all clocking out for the day. 3 in the discard pile from Pokestop alone, and the final one was in the prizes. It meant that Jared didn't have the easy access to Hisui and Heavy Ball he really wanted to run away with the game.
And Screamtail put in a bit of work here. KOing this Bibarel was super important for the end game. We saw Jake ultimately closing it out with really Iono being the game-winning card.
Exactly. After the Iron Hands finally came through and we saw the amp you very much, I thought for certain that Jared was eventually just going to just take some easy prizes, kind of just stroll his way to victory. But Jake, with the comeback on that reversal energy with the Gardevoir, getting rid of that big threat, and plus the disruption of Iono, meant that Jared was struggling to recoup these energies from the discard pile to keep up the chain of attackers.
And then the Iono and the pass, Jake saying, hey, I can't win this game, super unlikely that that would happen, so I'm just going to pass, not give you any real outs, and Jared just had no real outs and just has to pass it back, and this game is going to end up in that tie.
But 4-0-1 still ain't nothing,
Still solid.
ain't too bad.
Yeah, it's definitely solid, but it does feel bad whenever you had a really good shot to just get those 2 extra match points. You know, you got to,
especially in a tournament of this size.
Exactly.
You
Like,
got to get the wins.
the margin for error to really have a deep run at these tournaments is so small. So you really want to capitalize on every position that is presented to you in order to give you the best shot to get as many match points as possible, to give you your best shot at day 2, best shot at top 8, and then ultimately best shot at becoming a regional champion.
Exactly. That was a nice mixture of, you know, good luck, bad luck, and then just kind of awkward draws. And that's, I think, the essence of Pokemon is you want to make sure that you're playing enough games, you're playing well enough where that variance tends to even out. And, you know, Jared already learned, I think, a lot from that game. And if he fights against any Gardevoirs going forward in the bracket, they're going to get that salty Iron Hands coming out to take those extra prizes, I think.
Yeah, the Iron Hands being really kind of the big card of the Chien Pao deck, and one of the main things I think that keeps it sticking around as a relevant option, being able to be a strong attacker into any deck that plays Comfey, any Gardevoir deck, of course, and then you know, the Charizard matchup always has been pretty decent for Chien Pao, just being able to pretty relatively easily KO, one-hit KO a Charizard EX.
Yeah.
You need those 6 energy cards, which can seem like a lot, but the deck is really built to be able to find those pieces.
Right, and Charizard is also not very disruptive, just kind of hits whatever's in front of it, so your back Excalibur is a little safer, and you can also play at a very measured pace, make sure you're getting your rare candies and everything set up. So Chien Pao versus Charizard, I can understand why Jared Grimes did like the deck. It's just this time came through as a tie.
Yep, it's going to be a tie at this spot for the players, but like you mentioned, 401 is still a decent spot. You know, plenty of rounds left. You need to at least get to 6-2-1 to make it into day 2, but I mean, to be honest, 6-2-1 going into day 2, you're basically going to have to go 6-0 in day 2 to make it into top 8.
With the match points required. Like, just taking a tie or taking an early loss can be very disheartening. And what can I say, Chip? It's just a matter of keeping your head in the game, you know, shaking it off and going next. We could see from his expressions, you know, that Jared was very heartbroken at the end of Game 3, seeing a win become a tie.